All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to the summer 2023 info session for the Growing the Arts program. Every time I say summer 2023, I feel like that show The Jetsons, because when I was a kid, this felt like it'd be a really long time in the future, but it's not. I am Lindsay Granger Weaver. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Senior Associate Director of Internship Programs at Beyond Barnard. Welcome. Hop in and get started. So the Growing the Arts program administrators, of all of these people, I'm the only one here, but there are two faculty directors who are Paul Scaglieri and Joan Snitzer, and then I am supported by Zena Jones here at Beyond Barnard. And yeah, so today we are going to talk about what is Growing the Arts, what's the program, what's the background for it, what's the purpose, and then some benefits, eligibility, and requirements to be in the program. Then dig into the application, so dates, details, tips for filling out the application once it does open up. And then there'll be some time and space for questions and next steps. So hopefully that'll cover it. So this first part. So Growing the Arts, it's written weird. That is the official spelling of Growing the Arts. And it's funded by a grant from the Annenberg Foundation. And what they want to do with this is develop pipelines into various areas of the arts or the administrative side, because a lot of these sorts of opportunities as college students are unpaid and have a pretty high barrier to entry. And so hopefully by providing funding for programs, for opportunities that are not able to provide it themselves, and also providing support via on-campus programming and housing, which we'll get into some of those benefits in a minute. It opens up pathways and possibilities, and would diversify the field in all types of ways by just lowering the barrier to entry. And they're really big on connecting classroom work to professional arts work, which is why half of the program administrators are faculty members, because they want to make it clear that there is a continuity between what you're learning in class and what can be applied in the real world of work. So the program, so over the benefits. So last summer, the stipend was $5,250. I don't see that changing for the summer, but if it did, it would go up. You'll know that at the time the application opens, that amount will be solidified. We also get free housing, and that's because these participation in these biweekly cohort-based discussions is really important. The last 2 years, they've been virtual. I see perhaps some more incorporation of in-person events since everyone is going to be here. But they're really a chance to facilitate these sorts of academic and career-related conversations, both with folks who are in different areas of the arts, in different and even similar areas, but very different organizations, because those internships and what you're exposed to can look very different depending on the organization that you're part of. And they really bridge gaps between theory, practice, and the practicalities that come with career planning. Also last summer, there was the opportunity to receive a mentor who works in the arts via my colleague, Laura Maltz, who is on this call now. And it was really great because this field is so connections based. And so having somebody who's been there to really help and guide and just be a resource was really fruitful to participants. And so that should continue on for next summer. And then the output for the summer is that folks present on a project based on the work that they did. And so it's a slightly elevated version of something you may have done in elementary school, which is like, what did you do this summer? But there are like specific questions and guidance given. This one was really great to hear, especially having been completely remote for these cohort workshops. These like capstone projects were really great to hear, what folks have been up to, what they learned over the summer, some of the real life challenges that are faced in some of these organizations that don't have a ton of funding and are kind of understanding the competing levels of funding and competing priorities based on that. And so it was really fascinating to hear. And so it's really just kind of like the benefits of it are supportive community, a stipend and housing, which is great, mentors, and just really getting a sense of the work of the arts and, you know, your place in it, and if you feel like it's something that you actually want to do. So eligibility and requirements. So this is open to currently enrolled first year sophomores and juniors. So otherwise rising sophomores, juniors, and seniors. Unfortunately, graduating seniors are not eligible for this program. The internships should be full-time. So about 30 to 35 hours per week, total of 350 hours over the course of the summer. That's based on a 10-week schedule. Sometimes some folks did a little fewer, so did about 8 weeks, and so those hours were upped. Others did 12, hours were down. It's a ballpark. They're not gonna make you punch a card or anything like that, but that's really the parameter. Should be full-time work. And an arts organization. And so arts organization can mean a lot of different things. On a slide that's coming up, you'll see where people were last summer, but it runs the range of, you know, what you think of like a theater or an art gallery, museum, but also there were literary magazines, fashion startups, you know, other types of journals. And so it really runs the gamut. Arts organization mean a lot of different things. Arts internship is the part that is really important. The other piece is that the organization must be based in New York City. This is a parameter of the grant. The last 2 summers, especially the first summer that we did this, there was some leeway given because a lot of things were remote. And so people could be here, but have organizations outside and vice versa, and see those parameters coming back to really the focus of this, which is providing support to New York-based arts organizations. And at the time of application, you don't need to have secured an internship, although the application is timed for you to at least be in a process with people. So you should start to apply when things are open or have a sense of, you know, the things that you would like to do at the time of the application, because as you'll see, we do ask for that type of information. But you don't need to have something secured. You don't need to have an offer letter at the time that you apply. Although if you are accepted, in order to actually join the cohort and receive the funding and the housing and all the great benefits we just talked about, you will need to have a secured internship that is eligible based on these requirements on here. And so these are the internship sites from last summer. And as I referenced, they run the gamut. There's a couple of public arts places, theaters, museums, journals. It was really great to see how arts administration looked across these different types of spaces, and also to like overhear the conversations that folks were having about what, you know, some of the similarities like with the funding or with, you know, the long hours, things like that, what they look like across the different types of spaces. So these are just a few to just show the range that we accept in this program. And so some tips for securing an internship. Most won't open right now. Like if you go to look, you'll probably see a good amount of spring semester internships at the moment. Maybe some museums and places that have more structured programs will have their ducks in a row for summer, but most likely you'll start to apply to things when you come back from winter break, and even in January, it could be a little early. But what you can do is start to identify potential organizations and reach out to them to see what their application timelines are, or if they don't have official internship programs, you can start to see if perhaps you could co-create something with them. And if you receive funding, then places are like, yes, please come do something. But it's good to start to have those conversations just to see what their process would look like, what sorts of things they would want an intern to do, what the commitment could be, because you need to have it be full-time, and some places that are smaller or have a small staff may not be able to support someone full-time. So just keep that in mind. Opportunities with individual artists are also eligible for this program. So if you have a connection to those, or, you know, if you're maybe a professor or something who knows a working artist who would be able to take on an intern, that's another thing to explore. And so to find these opportunities, kind of reference like using a network, especially Barnard alums. There are quite a few in the arts broadly that are always more than happy to talk to you about the pathways, but also seeing, what could be available with their organization or with places that they are connected to. And then professors, a lot of the professors here are very involved in the art scene beyond just teaching about their specific area of arts. And so if there's, an area that you're interested in, especially like I know the creative writing folks are very tapped in, a lot of visual arts folks very tapped in. And so it's just a matter of putting out there something that you would like to do and seeing what could you possibly be connected to, and having these conversations with alums and professors. These sorts of networking things are definitely start before the application time, because it takes a bit to build up that rapport, to build up that trust, and for them to be able to trust that you're going to represent yourself well. And so start now having these conversations. It'll be useful for both this program and then just moving forward in your career. You can have PCAs and Beyond Barnard staff review application documents. So we'll go over what the application looks like, but there is, a resume component. So have somebody go over your resume, and also assist with interview prep and these networking prep conversations. We're here to do all of those things and more. And then finally, something new for the spring semester is we're having a few opportunities fairs, and the first one is media arts and communications opportunities. That will be on January 20th in the Diana from 12 to 3, but you can register for it on Handshake now. And that will be a really great place to start talking to people, find like actual internship opportunities for the summer, see what's available. And so that I think will be very fruitful for you if you're interested in applying to this program, but do not have an internship opportunity just yet. So before I move on to the application, are there any questions about the program or internships or anything that we've gone over so far? You can put it in the chat or come off of mute, raise your hand, do all of the things, any of the things.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do the internships have to be at a certain time since we are meeting for these cohort meetings? Like, what if someone's internship is like May to June and then someone else's is like July, August, and how that works?
Yeah, so the cohort meetings take place in the evenings so that most people do work during that 9 to 5 space and then come in afterwards. Usually summer internships tend to start at the beginning of June and end at some point in mid-August anyway. And so the timing can work out. We did have some people whose internships started later, but they still attended the cohort meetings because they could still contribute to the conversation and still learn a lot from it. And so even just with the timing, as long as you meet roughly that 10-week full-time requirement, then the start dates are a little flexible. But given the timing of the summer, they tend to all kind of fall in the same window. That's a good question. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else right now? We'll have some time at the end for questions. I just wanted to take a pause for the cause here. All right. So now we'll go into the application and then questions and next steps. So the application will open in February and close in March. The exact dates will be communicated. Probably we're looking at like the first week of February, first or second week of February, and then close right before spring break so that the application committee has a chance to review things over that spring break period. Make some selections if they decide to interview or need follow-up. There is that time to do that. So we have to have internship participation, which confirmed by mid to late April for the housing piece of this. So there are a lot of moving parts. So, but just so you know, the application will close sometime before spring break in March of 2023. And so again, internships must be confirmed by late April, and then the program will run from the end of May through mid-August for your internship dates. The exact dates of the cohort meetings will be determined based on kind of where the calendar falls. Last year we went, it was mostly late June through mid-August were those things, and they're every other week. So it kind of fell into that category. So yeah, so this is the application, the very vague application dates because it's December, we're talking about next summer. Here are the details. So it's a pretty straightforward application. So first part is just your general applicant information. Parts 2 and 3 are pretty important to dig into a little bit. So section 2 would be your internship information. And if you have something that you've secured, then this is where we start to see, what it is. So the organization name, supervisor, if it's an individual artist, put that in there. Address can be a website. I'm not sure why we ask for physical addresses anymore. So if you have it, so if you've, already have something right now or have something in the pipeline for the time that the application opens, just put that information there. If not, then provide the information of organizations that you have applied to. Because you want to see that you're actively in the process. By the application close date, you should be in some sort of an internship search process. And so it's an upload box for you to just let us know, like, these are the places I've applied. This is when I applied. This is, if you interviewed or if you're waiting to hear back. That's really important for us to know. Section 3, your statement of interest is just that. So why are you interested in this program? What is bringing you to growing the arts at this stage of your college career? How do you think you can contribute to this really important piece of the program, which are these conversations with your cohort? That sort of connection and showing that you've thought about that is a part of what we look at when reviewing your applications. And then next, describe your internship. So talk about the tasks, why it's interesting, why you applied. If you don't have something yet, then you can say how far along you are in developing the process. And you can also perhaps describe an ideal internship if you are kind of like working multiple channels at that point. The really important parts are interest to the program, cross-disciplinary conversations, and also this like how you think the work of, how you see yourself in the work of the arts based on the internship. And then the next part is a resume. So that's pretty standard, upload a resume. And since we are a career office, the resume is pretty important. So please have it reviewed. And yeah, so some application tips. Please fill out the entire application and please submit it on time. That should be a given, but I must say it because deadlines are kind of vibes at this point, but we're trying to move into the solid, this is a deadline, because as I said before, there are a lot of moving parts in the spring, especially when it comes to housing, and we'll need to have the cohort solidified pretty quickly from the application deadline. So please fill out the entire application on time. That internal consistency of why you're interested in the program, why you're interested in the arts, and the internship information they should complement each other. They should talk to each other. And if they don't, then we're looking for you to say why. So if, for example, you say that you're really interested in theater and you're applying to internships that are more visual arts focused, we want to hear why. There are connections there, but you need to make it make sense to us so that we know that you're not just kind of throwing everything out there to see what sticks, but that you have a focus and that there is something that you genuinely want to get out of the summer beyond give me money for an internship, because we have programs for that. And this isn't one of those. Your statement of interest should be an essay. So we sometimes get non-essays for this, and they're beautiful artwork, beautiful poems and things, but you can be creative with the content, not the format. Not everyone who reviews these is an artist who appreciates the art. And also, this is a program about working in the arts, not showing off, not us judging your artistic chops. I'm sure most of you have an artistic practice, and that tends to come out in the work that you do and in the organizations that you choose to work at. But when applying to the program, we want this to be an essay about your interest in working in this field. And yes, please address the cross-disciplinary conversations piece. We think about it when the cohort is constructed. We want to make sure that there are different parts that is as holistic as possible, but also that there is an eye towards this being an actual cohort of people who are in this together and to really learn from each other. So that when you don't address that in an essay, it's a little bit of a red flag that, again, you just want the funding and not to be part of the program. And then finally, just have all of your documents reviewed. That's very important. Careless mistakes in an application process that can be pretty competitive. The cohort size is about 10 to 12 usually, and we receive far more applications than that. So you just want to make sure that everything is on track so that a careless mistake won't derail your application to the program. And so next steps from here, before I open it up to any questions, which I'm sure you all have, since this was a very mile high overview of the program. So fill out the interest form if you have not done so. That's how we will be in touch with you with things like the actual dates, when the application opens, any changes to the program or significant changes to what was outlined here. This QR code will go to that form. Again, if you filled it out already, it's fine. If you have not or don't remember, just fill it out again. Finish the semester strong. It's been another long road from September to now, and then take a break. This one does not open until February, so you don't have to worry about the actual physical submission of anything until March. You can, on your break, take some time to network, do some Google searches on people, places, orgs, etc., that you may want to reach out to. And then just, check your email for updates, because that's how you'll get the most updated information. And you get a lot of emails, so please don't ignore ours. And that is it for me, for my prepared remarks. But please ask any questions that you have about internships, the programming, mentorship, application, anything. We've got some time, so please, let's use it productively. And again, come off mute, raise your hands, chat me, DM me. All avenues are open.
Hi, I have a question. You might have gone over this already, but just in terms of funding, is it coming from the school or the organization directly, just in case we want to reach out to possibly a nonprofit that's just beginning but might not be able to support that amount financially full time?
Yeah, so the program is funded through a grant through the Annenberg Foundation. So internship organizations do not, most of these are unpaid internships. And so then we provide the stipend that would support you for that. So orgs do not have to come out of pocket for anything beyond what they normally would for an employee.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a question. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. For the housing, is it subsidized housing or is it free housing?
It's free housing. So it's
Okay.
completely covered for summer A and B.
And that is not affected by whether the student is taking classes or not in the summer?
It should not be. We can double check on that. I know last summer there wasn't anybody taking classes, but if you're participated in this program, you're on a list and you get free housing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Yes, the PowerPoint and the recording will be shared. I'll share them on both via email and also in the handshake page for Growing the Arts so that they can just live there. But yes, they'll be shared to let you know when they're up and ready. Let's see, you speak more to the cross-disciplinary aspect. Should we speak to our own cross-disciplinary interests in the application as well as the cross-disciplinary aspect of the cohort? Yeah, so I would say in your application, you can speak to both of those. And so your interest in learning from others, but also what you think that you could contribute to others based on your position, whether it be like your internship or your point of view or your situation within the world of arts. So it's kind of both of those things, and I'm sure if that answered the question, but you know, what you can contribute, what people can learn from you, and also like what you hope to learn from other people who are in different areas. That's a really good question. Is the best method of researching available internships through Handshake? No. Handshake is growing in things. Handshake's not the only resource that you have. And so I think you can use it to see what's open. I think websites like, depending on your area of the arts, idealist.org is a great website for nonprofit, social sector, public sector organizations of all kinds, but I know specifically a lot of museums and foundations and, you know, public arts organizations will post on there. Media Bistro, if you're more into the more like writing and communications piece, that's a good spot for things. New York has a lot of New York-based arts job boards and organizations. You can even go to the city website to find those departments because that type of work definitely counts as well. Tapping Laura, my Beyond Barnard colleague, to see if I'm missing any or any other like specific arts ones that folks can look at.
I was going to say Mashable is like digital media. So if you want to write for digital spaces, and then bookjobs.com is a really good one for editorial things within publishing.
Yes. So those are good ones. And then if there are, you know, smaller organizations like smaller galleries or museums that, you know, are interesting to you or have, you know, content that you would like to be part of or programming you'd like to be part of, then you can reach out to them directly. And just kind of go from there. One suggestion when doing this outreach and just as research in general is to keep a spreadsheet, just so that you can be organized, so that you can see the spaces that you're finding, get the link up there, find their website, see if they say on their website when their application would open, just take down that information too, just so that you're organized. Once it is time to start to apply, you'll have a sheet ready. But that's a very good question.
And you just thought of one more. If you're into film and TV production, staffmeup.com has a lot of like production assistant jobs and things like that.
Great, thanks. So we got a twofer here, everybody. Let's check the chat if there's anything else. There are more questions. What are some examples of past individual internship projects? So folks who, so last summer, we'll speak to that. Someone interned at Gary Lichtenstein Studios. And so he's a very famous printmaker. And so they were able to kind of work under them, work in that office, get some experience both on the administrative side, but also learning some of the techniques from this artist. And then also they were able to come back to, they were living on campus, they were able to come back to campus and do some work in the design center and work at a print shop at Columbia. And so it kind of was a mashup of experiences within this one umbrella of printmaking and in this within that one field. And so I think that was one that stuck out because it wasn't like a straight up, I'm going to intern at this place, but it was kind of like them putting together different experiences that they really wanted to learn from under the umbrella of this one area of printmaking. So that was one example. I think that that's probably the best example of like an individual project. We had another person last year work with a professor on who was putting on an original opera. And so they were able to learn, get their hands in all areas of that, from like putting the book together to stage design to marketing, to creating like educational content that went around the program so that people could go and actually understand what it was, and to have like younger people who may not understand what they're going to see be able to watch and then also learn from it afterwards. So it so it's kind of like you can apply with, this is the project I want, and then this is how I'm going to accomplish that. So I don't know if that answered your question, but yes, those are two from last summer that I think fall into that independent internship category. People are only eligible for a single full-time internship, not 2 part-time internships in the arts. Right, so you apply, I think if there are 2 part-time internships that are like the same, like the preference is for one opportunity, one singular main opportunity, and perhaps other things that would complement that for the student, but not 2 disparate opportunities that you're just kind of like picking and choosing which one. Full-time in one place or full-time-ish in one place, and then perhaps like the person who did the printmaking working in other spaces that would complement that so that they could dig deeper into that one area. I would say when you apply, or even before you apply, I would reach out to either Paul or Joan or Beyond Barnard with more specifics on the 2 internships, or if there are multiple internships that you're interested in, just to see the feasibility of it. Because I don't want to say no, and then it turns out that like this could be the best opportunity. Although the strong preference is for something that is more consistent than 2 very different internship opportunities. That was a very political answer, but that I think is probably the best way to look into this, right? To go about this right now.
Lindsay, would you mind talking a little bit about what some of the sessions were about for the cohort meetings over the summer?
Yeah, definitely. So they definitely ran the mix of, there were a few that were specifically led by Paul and Joan about, it was like a faculty seminar style about like contemporary issues in the arts. And so some they would break off and break the cohort into 2 and have like smaller group discussions about what's going on, what folks are seeing, and then bring in kind of a more academic lens to the internship experiences. And then the ones that we ran through Beyond Barnard were more about just like working in the arts very broadly and preparing for a career in the arts. And so for the last 2 summers, we did equity issues in the arts. And so just broadly thinking about, taking up space and storytelling and how that could look based on the positionality of the organization and the internship. Other times we brought in people who work in DEI and the arts to kind of talk about their experiences. Arts resumes is one that has been consistent, and then also networking and mentorship conversations. And so actually you're very familiar with that one because you ran it last year. It was actually really one of the more popular, well-received workshops was the alumni panel that came as part of that, because it broke down the barrier of like actually talking to alums and made it human and made them more likely to engage. And so that was really great. And so those are kind of like the tentpole ones. And then we try to find some things that are topical and then leave time to just share out like what people are seeing in the moment in their internships, or leave things to, you know, if something happens in the world and we need to talk about it, then we leave space for that. Right. Well, the former teacher in me is saying that we probably have maxed the questions, but we have this email here, Beyond Barnard at barnard.edu. If you do think of anything after the fact, or if you're watching this recording and have questions, feel free to reach out that way. Thank you all again for coming. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the great questions and the active chat. And we look forward to having you here with Growing the Arts or any of our other programs. So thank you and have a great rest of the semester.